Well, my customers have been telling me for years, but lately, in the last 6 months, we have more customers coming in that are desperate in need of money. They need to put food on their table, gas in their tank, and a roof over their heads. So we see a lot more customers coming in now for loans.
You remember the gravelly voice and ruthless gaze? For years, Les Gold was the indomitable king of Detroit's notorious 8-Mile empire. But the cameras have stopped, and the legendary negotiator is facing a devastating reality he can't bargain out of. Behind the bombastic persona, a catastrophic storm of legal battles and fractured family ties has left his legacy in shambles. And now we reveal how the formidable man who had everything suddenly lost it all. The rise from pawn boy to TV royalty. Before we get into the messy stuff, and trust me, it gets messy, you need to understand just how far Les Gold had climbed, because the higher you rise, the harder the fall hits. Leslie Les Gold was born on June 20th, 1950, in Detroit, Michigan, and the pawn business was basically in his DNA. His grandfather owned a shop called Sam's Loans on Michigan Avenue, a now-defunct Detroit landmark. And Les? He made his very first sale there at the ripe old age of 7 years old. That's right. While other kids were playing outside, Les Gold was already learning the art of the deal. But Les didn't stop there. At 12, he was buying pizzas and reselling them by the slice to fellow students at Hebrew school. I mean, you either laugh at that or you take notes, because that kind of hustle doesn't come around every day. By 1978, Les had opened American Jewelry and Loan at the Green 8 Shopping Center on 8-Mile Road in Oak Park, Michigan. 15 years later, in 1993, the business had grown so much that he moved it to a massive 50,000-square-foot building on Greenfield Road, a former bowling alley, which honestly feels very Detroit. Over the decades, the shop grew into a full empire with multiple locations, eventually employing up to 200 people and serving around 1,000 customers a day. Les Gold wasn't just a pawnbroker. He was, by every measure, a legitimate Detroit institution. But here's what you're really wondering. How does a guy with a 45-year-old family business, hundreds of employees, and a dynasty built from scratch end up losing it all? Well, it started with the thing that made him famous in the first place. Fame, fortune, and family drama on camera. In 1998, over a decade before the show ever aired, a television producer named Richard Dominic noticed Les Gold's local TV ads running during commercial breaks of The Jerry Springer Show. Dominic saw something in Les, something raw, charismatic, and undeniably watchable. He approached the Gold family with the idea of a reality show, and while Les's son Seth was initially not on board, Les overruled him and agreed to let the cameras in. That decision would change everything. The pilot aired in late 2009, and then on August 16, 2010, Hardcore Pawn officially premiered on True TV. The result? 2 million viewers on night one, setting a record as True TV's most-watched series premiere ever. By 2013, that number had climbed past 3 million viewers per episode. And the formula was addictive. Every episode was a cocktail of outrageous customers, dramatic negotiations, employee scandals, and the real secret sauce, the non-stop bickering between Les and his 2 children, Seth and Ashley. Seth, who'd studied at the University of Michigan and headed marketing, was always pushing back against his dad. Ashley, who ran the jewelry department and knew diamonds inside and out, was constantly in the middle of some family showdown. It was glorious, chaotic television. Les and Seth were even credited as executive producers from the 3rd season onward. This wasn't just a show for Les Gold. It was his show. in every sense of the word. But here's the thing about cameras. They capture everything: the good, the bad, and the deeply uncomfortable. And Hardcore Pawn had plenty of all three. During the show's run, some serious controversies played out both on screen and off. In one memorable storyline, a couple named Tony and Dina attempted to sell paintings worth over $1 million without the rightful owner's knowledge, essentially trying to pawn stolen art through the Gold family. The owner eventually found out and alerted Les, Ashley, and Seth, turning it into one of the show's most jaw-dropping episodes. Then there was Big Joe, head of security for 6 seasons, who was caught on camera stealing scrap gold from the shop. He was arrested and fired, and the incident aired during the season 6 finale. That's right, one of Les's own security guards stealing from him on national television. And employee Bobby Jeniak, he left the shop in early 2016 and went on social media to post that he felt he had been taken advantage of by Les. Not exactly great optics. The show was also dogged by accusations that it was scripted or staged, that the fights were manufactured, the chaos exaggerated. Critics pointed to the way Black Detroit customers were depicted, suggesting the editing made them appear angry and stereotypical. Les consistently pushed back, insisting the show was a genuine look at real people in hard financial times. But whether the drama was real or produced, the ratings were undeniable. Hardcore Pawn was a phenomenon. So with millions of viewers, a thriving business, and a family name known across the country, what on earth could bring the curtain down? And more importantly, who pulled the plug first? Here's where things start to get a little humbling for Les Gold. By season 9, the writing was on the wall. True TV, the network that had made Hardcore Pawn its crown jewel, was pivoting hard. The network had decided to rebrand itself around comedy programming, and suddenly a gritty, dramatic pawnshop show from Detroit didn't fit the new aesthetic they were going for. No other television network swooped in to pick it up. Production was halted in 2014. The final episode aired in 2015. Just like that, 9 seasons, millions of viewers, and a cultural moment that had defined an era of cable TV gone. Now, to be fair to Les, the cancellation wasn't his fault. It was a business decision driven by network strategy, not by anything he did wrong. True TV was simply moving on. But here's the thing. When you've built your public identity around a television show and that show disappears, you disappear too. And that's a particular kind of loss that money can't fully cushion. Les Gold went from being a household name, someone that 3 million Americans were watching every week, to being someone people would recognize with a slightly confused look and say, "Wait, is that the Pawn guy?" And before the dust had even settled on the show's cancellation, the next chapter of bad news was already brewing, because losing the TV show was just the beginning. What happened next hit even closer to home. Literally. The Gold family itself was starting to fracture. The family splits. Ashley walks out the door. For years on Hardcore Pawn, the most entertaining tension wasn't between Les and a difficult customer. It was between Les, Seth, and Ashley. The three of them were a combustible combination. A father who built everything from scratch and didn't let anyone forget it. A son who had ideas of his own. And a daughter who was sharp, opinionated, and not shy about saying so. When the cameras were rolling, that tension was entertainment. But when the cameras stopped, it became something else entirely. After the show concluded, Ashley Gold made a significant decision. She left American Jewelry and Loan. She didn't just take a step back or reduce her hours. She walked away from the family business that her grandfather's legacy had helped build and that she'd spent years working in to start her own online jewelry business venture. Think about that for a second. Les Gold had built this empire specifically imagining it as a family dynasty, something to pass down, something that would carry the Gold name forward. And his own daughter, who had been his co-star and supposed heir, decided she was done. Now, to be clear, there's no verified public statement from Ashley citing any specific falling out or dramatic backstage incident. People leave family businesses for all kinds of reasons, and building your own thing is a legitimate and admirable choice. But the optics? For Les Gold, the man who'd always made family the centerpiece of his brand? Losing Ashley from the business was no small thing. Meanwhile, son Seth has remained more connected. He and Les even launched a new online pawn service called Fast Pawn in 2019, designed to help customers manage pawn loans digitally. Seth has been the more visible of the two siblings in recent years, frequently posting on TikTok, and sometimes even pulling his dad in for cameos to react to iconic moments from the show. But even Seth's involvement is a far cry from the electricity of the full Gold family unit that made the show what it was. So the show is gone, Ashley is gone, and the family brand is a shadow of what it was. But wait, Les Gold wasn't done making moves. He had one more big swing left in him. And spoiler alert, it didn't end well either. The restaurant debacle, Gold Cash. Gold closes its doors. Here's a detail about Les Gold's story that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and it's arguably one of the most telling chapters of his post-fame arc. In 2014, Les made a bold move into the restaurant world, opening Gold Cash Gold in Detroit's Corktown neighborhood on Michigan Avenue, the same storied street where Detroit's pawn shop history runs deep. The concept leaned directly into the Gold family brand, a pawn shop-themed restaurant that gave fans of hardcore pawn a real-world place to connect with the legacy Les had built on television. For a while, it worked. Gold Cash Gold became a legitimate Detroit dining destination, drawing on the Gold name and the hardcore pawn nostalgia to carve out a spot in one of Detroit's most historically rich neighborhoods. It was a clever extension of the brand, proof that Les wasn't just coasting on TV fame, but actively trying to build something beyond it. But in February 2020, before the pandemic had even reached American shores, Gold Cash Gold closed its doors permanently, citing financial struggles. That timing matters. This wasn't a COVID casualty or a restaurant swept away by forces no one could have predicted or prevented. Gold Cash. Gold ran into financial trouble on its own terms, and it closed because the numbers didn't work. For Les Gold, a man who'd spent his entire career as a master of the deal, of knowing exactly what something was worth and when to walk away, losing a restaurant venture to straightforward financial failure was a quietly damaging blow to the empire's reputation. The show, the restaurant, the family dynamic, each one gone or fundamentally changed. But here's where things take a turn that Les Gold himself clearly didn't see coming, because his own health started becoming part of the story. The health rumors. In recent years, there have been ongoing whispers and reports about Les dealing with undisclosed health concerns, though no specific diagnosis or serious incident has ever been publicly confirmed. What has been confirmed is that Les has taken a step back from the day-to-day operations of American Jewelry and Loan, leaving Seth and Ashley to carry more of the operational weight. As of late 2024, reports suggest Les is focusing on his personal health, spending time with family, and making occasional appearances at the shop, rather than running it with the iron grip that made for such compelling television. For a man who was once physically present for 1,000 customers a day, that is a profound shift. So where does all of this leave American Jewelry and Loan? The very business that started everything. Is the empire Les Gold built still standing? Or has that crumbled too? The pawn shop today, empire or echo? Let's be clear about something, because this is important. American Jewelry and Loan is still open. The business Les Gold built from a shopping center kiosk in 1978 is still standing, and in some ways, it's still impressive. The shop continues to operate out of its flagship Detroit location on Greenfield Road near 8 Mile. There are additional locations in Hazel Park, Pontiac, and Southgate, Michigan. The business has been a Detroit institution for over 45 years, and that's genuinely remarkable. Not many businesses survive that long. Not many families keep a business that complex running across multiple generations. But here's the gossip-worthy subtext that the official narrative doesn't quite admit. The empire is running on different fuel now. Seth Gold is the public face. Ashley has moved on. Les shows up occasionally. The three-headed gold family monster that made hardcore pawn so watchable? That's not the operational reality anymore. And there are economic headwinds that even Les Gold's empire can't fully ignore. In a 2024 Fox News interview, Les himself described the situation at his shop in sobering terms. He said that pawnbrokers are street-level economists, and that the pawn line at his 8 Mile store was roughly twice as long as the redemption line, meaning far more people were bringing things into pawn than were coming back to reclaim them. Customers were pawning items just to put food on the table, gas in their tank, and keep a roof over their heads. They weren't thinking in terms of monthly budgets anymore. They were thinking week to week. That's a portrait of economic desperation in Detroit, and Les Gold, to his credit, was calling it out publicly. But it's also a picture of a very different American Jewelry and Loan than the one audiences saw on television. The chaotic deals for Dr. Jack Kevorkian's van, the million-dollar art controversies, the wild negotiations over sports memorabilia, those episodes reflected a shop that had the luxury of picking its battles. The current reality is something more raw, more grinding, and far less glamorous. So after everything, the canceled show, the restaurant closure, the family fractures, the health concerns, and the economic pressure, what does the full picture of Les Gold's fall actually look like? And is there any chance of a comeback? What Les Gold really lost. Les Gold built something remarkable from the ground up. A third-generation pawnbroker who made his first sale at 7. A self-made businessman who turned a small pawn shop into a 50,000-square-foot Detroit landmark. His book hit the New York Times bestseller list in 2013. His show became a true TV hit, watched by millions every week. Then, the empire slowly started shrinking. The TV show ended. No network revived it. The Gold Cash Gold restaurant closed in February 2020 after financial struggles that began long before the pandemic. His daughter Ashley left the business. Les, now in his mid-70s, stepped back from daily operations. The shop is still open, and his son Seth keeps things running. But the larger-than-life version of Les Gold that dominated television has mostly stepped away. He didn't lose everything. American Jewelry and Loan still stands. But the spotlight faded, the family dynamic shifted, and the dynasty people expected never quite unfolded the way it once seemed it would. Here's the twist that nobody quite expected. The internet still loves Les Gold. When Seth posts TikToks breaking down iconic hardcore pawn moments, the engagement is real. When Les makes a cameo, the comments explode. People aren't watching out of nostalgia fatigue. They're watching because the original was genuinely good television, and Les Gold was genuinely compelling on screen. Les himself has said publicly that he's open to a return to television. He's delivered a TED Talk. He published a nationally best-selling book. He's appeared at industry panels and charitable events. The man still has the energy, the personality, and the name recognition. What he may lack is the network or the right moment. And in an era where streaming platforms are hungrier than ever for authentic, character-driven content, a Les Gold comeback isn't as far-fetched as it might sound. Seth is already building a digital audience. The pawnshop world is, if anything, more interesting in the current economic climate than it was in 2010. The stories walking through the doors of American Jewelry and Loan in 2025, people pawning things just to make rent, to buy groceries, to survive week to week, are arguably more compelling and more human than anything that aired on True TV. But as of right now, no confirmed comeback, no greenlit show, no definitive next chapter. The verdict. Les Gold's story is one of those genuinely complicated American tales. It's not a clean tragedy. It's not a triumphant comeback. It's something messier and more honest than either of those narratives. It's a man who built something remarkable, rode it to the very top, and then watched the pieces fall away one by one. The show, the restaurant, the family unit, the cultural relevance, the daily presence at the counter of the empire he built. Was it a total collapse? No. The doors are still open, and that matters. But was it a fall from grace? Absolutely. And the thing about falling from where Les Gold stood is that the distance is very, very long. So the next time you catch a rerun of Hardcore Pawn on cable or stumble across a Seth Gold TikTok at 2 in the morning, take a second to appreciate what you're watching. Because what Les Gold built, the family, the business, the television legacy, the Detroit institution, was, for one brief and glorious era, something truly special. And now, it's a story of what happens after the cameras go dark. If you want more stories like this, the real, unfiltered truth about what happened to your favorite reality TV stars, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Who do you want us to cover next? We'll see you in the next one.